The wind howled across Blackthorn Ridge as if mourning the lives it had swallowed. Snow blasted the abandoned rail station where Maren stood with her two shivering children. Their clothes were thin, their faces hollow from hunger. She pressed them close, whispering shaky promises she no longer believed. Wagons passed by without stopping. No one spared a glance until a tall cowboy dismounted in the storm and froze at the sight of them. His coat was heavy, dusted with ice. His jaw clenched as he saw the children digging through scraps near a broken crate. Something in his expression shifted: rage, compassion, recognition of pain he'd carried for years. "Ma'am," he said, voice steady despite the storm. "You shouldn't be out here." Maren shook her head. "We have nowhere else. My babies haven't eaten in 2 days." She lifted her son's limp hand. "Please take them. At least they'll survive." The cowboy stared at her as if she'd struck him. "Take your children," he repeated softly, kneeling to the boy's level. The child tried to stand but wobbled, legs trembling like twigs in wind. The girl hid behind her mother, too weak to cry. "Sir," Maren whispered, desperation cracking her voice, "people here take children as workers. Or worse, you look kind. You might give them a chance. Take them, please." Her lips were blue with cold dot. The man stood slowly, eyes burning with a storm fiercer than the snow. "Lady," he said, stepping closer, "I'm not taking your children." Maren began to cry, thinking he was refusing, but his hand came forward, steady, strong. "I'm taking all 3 of you." She froze, unable to breathe. "What? What do you mean?" The cowboy's voice dropped into a vow carved from iron. "Pack your things. You're all coming home with me. Nobody gets left behind." A gust of snow slammed into them, but the cowboy didn't flinch. He lifted Maren's son into his arms as if he weighed nothing. The boy's head rested against the man's chest, eyes fluttering. Maren blinked back tears. "Why?" she whispered. "We're strangers." He looked at her, something haunted flickering in his gaze. "Because once someone left my family in the cold. I swore if I ever found others in that place, I'd drag them out myself." He placed his warm coat over the girl's tiny shoulders, lifting her into his saddle. "Name's Rowan Hayes," he said. "I've got a ranch past the Ridge food fire beds." Maren hesitated. "I can't pay." Rowan met her eyes, not asking for payment. "Just giving you what someone never gave me a chance." Her knees nearly buckled. No one had offered kindness in years, but the storm was thickening and the children were fading fast. Rowan guided them through the buried trail, lantern swinging as the storm warped the world into white shadows. The children clung to him, as if sensing safety they'd never known. Maren stumbled, numb and dizzy, but Rowan was always there, catching her elbow, steadying her step. "You fall," he said. "I pick you up. That's how this works." She stared at him. "Why treat us like family?" Rowan didn't look back. "Because you are now." A wolf's howl echoed through the trees, closer than comfort. Rowan tightened his grip on his rifle. "Stay behind me," he ordered. Maren's pulse hammered. The storm masked movement. Shadows crawled along the ridge. Suddenly, 2 glowing eyes appeared between snow-laden branches. Rowan didn't hesitate. He raised the gun, fired once, and the creature vanished into the dark. "They stalk the hungry," he muttered. "But not tonight, not on my watch." The trail narrowed along a cliffside where wind screamed through jagged gaps. Maren leaned into the mountain, shielding her children. Rowan extended a rope. "Tie this around your waist. If you slip, I'm pulling you back." She obeyed, fingers trembling. He tied the other end to his saddle horn with a firm knot. "You trust me?" he asked. Maren swallowed. "I don't know you." Rowan smiled faintly. "You will, and I don't lose people." Halfway across the trail, the girl cried out as her foot slid on ice. Rowan swung off his horse, catching her before she fell. He wrapped her in his arms, murmuring softly until she breathed steady again. Maren watched, stunned. She had begged strangers for help before none had even slowed down. Yet, this man risked his life for her children as if they were his own. Something long dead in her chest flickered back to life. When they finally crossed the ridge, Rowan pointed ahead. Through the blizzard, faint lights glowed warm, steady, like stars fallen to earth. "That's my ranch," he said. "Hey, Homestead, you'll be safe there." Marin's throat tightened. "You barely know me." Rowan adjusted the boy in his arms. "Ma'am, you asked me to save your kids. I'm doing one better. I'm saving their mother, too." Her breath caught. No one had ever spoken to her like that. The ranch was larger than she expected. 3 barns, a long cabin, smoke rising from its chimney. As they neared, Rowan's old shepherd dog bounded through the snow, barking happily before circling the children protectively. Rowan scratched its fur. "See? Even Scout knows you belong here." Marin stepped inside the cabin and gasped. A roaring, fire, blankets, warm bread on the table. She hadn't felt warmth like this in years. Rowan placed the boy near the hearth, checking his pulse, his breathing, his fingers. "He'll recover," Rowan said gently. "Just needs heat and food." The girl sat wrapped in a quilt, eyes wide as she studied everything, the shelves, the boots, the glowing embers. Marin approached Rowan, hands shaking with gratitude. "Why do all this?" He looked up, sincerity carved deep in his expression, because nobody should have to beg for life. As the storm raged outside, Rowan ladled hot soup into bowls. Marin watched him move quiet, sure, as if caring for people was as natural as breathing. "Eat," he said. "Tomorrow we'll talk about what comes next." Marin nodded, unaware that tomorrow would bring the biggest surprise of all the truth behind why. Rowan Hayes vowed never to let another family freeze again. Asked her. Marin woke before sunrise, startled by a sound she hadn't heard in months. Silence, without fear. The children slept near the fire, cheeks flushed with warmth. Rowan was all ready, outside chopping wood with steady, powerful swings. Steam rose from his breath as the axe split logs like they were nothing. She watched him through the frosted window, wondering why a man like him lived alone, and why he'd risked so much for strangers like them. When he returned, snow on his shoulders, Rowan set hot tea in front of her. "Your hands are shaking," he noted. "You're exhausted." She tried to apologize, but he raised a hand. "Don't. Resting isn't weakness." Marin bowed her head. "I haven't had a home in a long time." Rowan leaned back in his chair. "Well, you do now if you'll accept it." The simple offer, spoken so gently, made her eyes burn with tears she'd held for years. The children ate more than Rowan expected, and he smiled softly as he watched them lick the bowls clean. "They eat like my brother used to," he murmured. Marin asked quietly, "You had family?" Rowan's jaw tightened. Once he stared at the fire, its glow reflecting in his eyes. "A blizzard took them when I was 19. I survived because a stranger dragged me out. I swore I'd be that stranger for someone else someday." Later, Rowan showed the children the barn animals. The girl giggled as the old Mari nudged her shoulder. The boy leaned sleepily against Rowan's leg, trusting him completely. Marin watched from the doorway, stunned at how quickly her children had connected with this rugged, quiet cowboy. They had never known a man who protected instead of punished, who fed instead of shouted. She felt her heart tug painfully, hope mixing with fear. Inside the cabin, Rowan laid out warm clothes, small coats, wool socks, boots. "They belong to my neighbor's kids," he explained. "They outgrew them, but something told me to keep them." Marin brushed the fabric with trembling fingers. "You prepared all this?" Rowan shrugged, suddenly shy. "I had a feeling winter wasn't done breaking people." She swallowed, overwhelmed. "You saved us." He met her eyes. "Now I found you. Saving starts now." Dot. As night fell, another snowstorm rolled in, fiercer than the last. The wind clawed at the cabin, walls like a beast trying to break in. Rowan checked every shutter, every door, reinforcing them. "Storm's angry tonight," he muttered. "Good thing you're not out there anymore." Marin hugged herself, imagining what would have happened if he hadn't found them. Her knees weakened. Rowan steadied her with one hand on her shoulder, warm, grounding, protective. When lightning flashed, the girl ran to Rowan and buried her face in his coat. He lifted her gently. "Hey, little one, storms can't get you in here." Marin froze, watching the tenderness in his eyes. He wasn't just helping, he was bonding with them. The boy tugged Rowan's sleeve. "Are we staying forever?" Rowan hesitated, glanced at Marin, then answered softly, "If your mama wants this home, it's yours, as long as you breathe." Later, Marin stepped outside for air. Overwhelmed by everything she'd been given in just a day, Rowan followed, bringing a lantern. "Something bothering you?" he asked. She hesitated. "Why do you look at us like we matter?" Rowan exhaled slowly. "Because you do. Because someone once looked at me like that and it saved my life." He stepped closer. "And because I see strength in you, the kind most people overlook." The storm eased by morning, leaving the world wrapped in glittering frost. Rowan saddled his horse. "I'm riding to town," he said. "Need supplies. You three stay inside. Wolves come down after storms." Marin's breath hitched. What if something? "It happens?" Rowan smiled. "Then I fight it. I always come back. I promise." It had been years since anyone promised her anything. The words warmed her more than the fire ever could. Hours passed. When Rowan finally returned, his horse was lathered with sweat. "Trouble?" Marin asked. Rowan sat down, the bag's jaw tight. "Some men in town noticed you were missing, the kind that don't ask politely. If they come here," he adjusted his revolver, "they won't take you." Fear stabbed through Marin. "They want my children." Rowan stepped closer. "Not anymore. They're under my protection now. Anyone who wants them goes through me." That night, Rowan stayed awake by the fire, rifle across his knees, boots planted firmly on the floorboards. Marin approached quietly. "You haven't slept." Rowan shook his head. "People like them don't give up easy." She sat beside him. "You shouldn't risk your life for us." He turned to her, eyes burning with conviction. "Marin, your children ran to me like I was their father, and I felt something I thought I'd lost forever." Marin's breath caught. Rowan continued, voice low. "A man spends years alone. He forgets what warmth feels like, until a woman and 2 kids look at him like he's worth something." He ran a hand through his hair. "I don't want to just protect you. I want you here with me for good." Her heart pounded. No one had ever wanted her, not as a burden, but as a choice. She took a trembling step toward him. "Rowan, you barely know me." He shook his head. "I know enough. I know you walk through storms for your kids. I know you were ready to give them up so they could live. That's the kind of woman who deserves a home." He lifted her hand gently. "You told me once you had nothing left. Let me prove you still do." His voice broke. "Let me be something to you." Tears streamed down Marin's face as she whispered, "We'll stay if you truly want us." Rowan's breath shuddered. "Marin, I want all 3 of you. Today, tomorrow, forever." He pulled her into his arms as the children woke and ran to them, wrapping their tiny hands around his legs. For the first time in years, Marin felt whole. The storm outside finally quieted because the family she thought she'd lost had just begun.